This video talks about demonstrations which have been made with the computer of Apollo. It shows that which appears on the screen of the computer does not come from the computer itself, but is pasted on it, or projected from a projector which is off-field. The computer itself is dead and does nothing. First, if we compare this DSKY with the one of the video in the command module, it is absolutely obvious that the displays are very different. On the video of the command module, the background is definitively much darker than the rest of the AGC, and, on the photo of the DSKY shown on the left, it is the converse. So what? What have they changed to the technology of the DSKY meanwhile? Now the lit segments could be fake, they could be pasted over the display. Of course you are going to tell or prove it. There are several clues which show that this photo is staged, and they are going to be given to you. First clue, let's focus on the part of the display which has been circled. See the horizontal bar of the plus sign. It touches the 0 digit on its right. On an electroluminescent display, the digits are well separated and don't touch each other. Second clue, on the left of the DSKY, we see the cable which connects it to the computer. Let's focus on the part which has been circled. The cable should go to the connector of the DSKY on its back. Instead it goes to its front, and gets narrower. The way it is connected is totally abnormal. Third and most interesting clue, see the indicator which has been circled. This indicator is the temp indicator, and is the indicator which indicates that the temperature of the stable member of the IMU, the gyros, is out of bounds. The IMU is essential to the spaceship, for it allows its guidance. If it was stopping working, the spaceship would be left without guidance. And don't think that the ground could guide the spaceship instead, for the ground also needs the informations of the IMU to calculate the position and orientation of the spaceship, which informations are transmitted via the MSFN. You might say, it does not prove that it could also happen during a lunar mission, for the AGC could have been running for a long time when this photo has been taken. We can't know how long it has been running when this photo has been taken. Oh yes, we know, and here is why we know it. The AGC had two timers counting that time, call time 1 and time 2, both were 14-bit counters. The first one, time 1, was triggered by a 10 milliseconds clock signal, and so was counting hundredths of a second. As it had 14 bits, it could count up to 2 at the bar of 14 minus 1 equals 16383. At the next clock pulse after it had reached its maximum, it was reset to 0 and in the same time, was triggering the timer time 2. So the timer time 2 was triggered every 16384 hundredths of a second, or 163.84 seconds. It was also counting up to 16383. The two timers were equivalent to a 28-bit timer which could count up to 16384 multiplied by 16384 equals 2684354. 55 hundredths of a second, or 2,684,354.55 seconds. Expressed in hours, it was making 2,684,354.55 divided by 3600 equals 745.65 hours, and in days it was making 745.65 divided by 24 equals 31.07 days, so just a little more than a month. It is way over the longest of the lunar missions. There were two ways of displaying these timers. The verb 16 allows to monitor data, that is to display data which is selected by the noun. The nouns 36 and 65 correspond to the display of the timers. The virtual AGC shows how the noun 36 was displaying the timers on 3 lines. The first line displays the hours. The second line displays the minutes. The third line displays the hundredths of second. The virtual AGC is not clear about the way the noun 65 displays the timers. By reading it, one could think that the noun 65 displays the timers the same way as the noun 36. But in that case, what we see on the photo would be wrong, for we only see 2 data lines on the display. But what we see on the display is not incorrect, for the noun 65 displays the timers differently from the noun 36, as you can check in the original documentation of the AGC. The first line displays the hours under the form XXX.XX. In fact, it does not display the decimal point, it just displays the double timer as hundredths hours. It represents the integer division of the double timer by 3600, and it can go up to 74565. The second line displays the seconds under the form XXX.XX. In fact, it does not display the decimal point either, it just displays the double timer as hundredths of second. But, as 5 digits are not enough to display the double timer, the second line displays the value of the double timer modulo 100,000. That is the remainder of the division of the double timer by 100,000. It can go up to 99,999. So what we see on the display is compatible with what has been said. There is a correlation between the 2 displayed lines which is going to be explained in that we can check. The value 133 displayed on the first line corresponds to a number of hundredths of hours. To obtain the corresponding value in hundredths of second, we multiply it by 3600, which gives 133 multiplied by 3600 equals 478,800 hundredths of second. But as it changes every 3600 hundredths of second, the current value of the double timer is comprised between this value and this value plus 3599, so between 478,800 and 478,800 plus 3599 equals 482399. Expressed in modulo and hundred thousandths, that would make for the second line a value comprised between 78,800 and 82,399. Now the second line displays 78,812, and is thus in the expected range. Thence the 2 lines are compatible. We would have expected otherwise, but we have to admit the compatibility of the 2 displayed lines. But it at least proves something. The AGC has been running for 1.33 hours. The fractional part 33 does not represent minutes, it represents 0.33 hour. In order to know how much it represents in minutes, we must multiply the fractional part by the number of minutes an hour. So 60 multiplied by 0.33 equals 19.8 minutes. We can round it up to 20 minutes. So we now have the proof that the AGC has been running for only 1 hour and 20 minutes when this photo was taken, and, in the so short time, the IMU already has temperature problems. So now think, if the IMU already overheats after having worked for only a little more than an hour in an environment which is more open than in a spaceship, what will it give when it has to work for several days continuously in the more closed environment of the spaceship? We have every reason to think that it has much chance to get out of order and to leave the spaceship without guidance. There exists an animated demonstration of this special DSKY unit. On it we can see the digits change, so it cannot be, like which has been suggested, something like fluorescent tape, just pasted over the screen. However, if we compare the display on this animation with the display in the video of the command module, we can see that the legibility of the digits is much better in the video of the command module, because of a better contrast provided by a dark screen instead of a light one. Before going on, we must talk about the technology which is used for the display of the computer of Apollo. Your modern computers use modern displays like the one which is shown. In fact, the displays you currently use are even more advanced than the one which is shown, for they are extra flat. But we will use this one which is more demonstrative. On this type of display, a beam sweeps a screen. The width and the height of the sweeping can be adjusted, and also its intensity. Consequently, the size and the luminosity of the digits which appear on the display may vary. But the computer of Apollo was not using this technology at all for its display. It was using instead a much simpler technology, which had the advantage of being easier to command and much faster, which was important given its feeble power. The display was constituted of a series of 7 segments, which could represent the digits to display. This animation shows how a 7-segment works. A 7-segment is constituted of 7 luminous segments, hence its name. When a digit must appear, the segments which represent it at best tell it. There is a special circuit which makes the conversion between a binary digit and the corresponding commands which must be sent to the 7-segment to light the segments which represent it. This animation shows how this converter works. A segment which is part of a 7-segment may be on, or it may be off. But it can't be half on. A segment is either lit or off, but it can't be half lit. So a 7-segment has 2 particularities that it is important to note for what follows. Its size is physically determined and absolutely cannot change. Its luminosity is also unique and cannot change, that is, cannot become dimmer. In fact, if we look close, the display on this DSKY unit does not look like electroluminescent segments at all. The contrast is very bad. The segments are not clean and, like on the photo, the horizontal bars of the plus signs touch the next digit. It absolutely does not look like an electroluminescent display. But on the other side, it looks like an image projected from a projector. The animation was projected from a projector aiming at the display of the DSKY. Of course, it was not this projector, it was some kind of projector. And if the background of the display does not have a good quality for an electroluminescent display, that is not dark enough. It had good reflective properties like a projector screen. These reflective properties were allowing it to reflect the image projected from a projector, what a black screen could not have done. You have never seen a black projector screen, have you? Now, what elements do I have to support this theory? At a given moment during the sequence, we see them move back the DSKY unit a little. This telescopic view shows on the left the unit before they moved it back, and on the right the unit after they moved it back. You can also see that the unit has moved back if you consider the holes on the top of the device which is on the right of the unit. But what did they move it back for? It was not to put the unit more into evidence, because before it was closer and entirely visible, so better placed for the demo at the beginning of the sequence than in the end. So there had to be another reason, and we can guess what this reason is. Finally, we find this reason when we notice a flare which appears on the bottom of the image at the beginning of the demonstration. This flare is obviously created by the projector's beam, which allows us to know that the projector was placed under the image. And so that there is no ambiguity, that this flare is not just a white spot. We see this flare move during the demonstration. So they moved back the unit a little so to obtain a better orientation for the projector's beam, which would avoid this flare. And effectively we don't see this flare anymore after they moved back the unit. The fact of moving back the unit also allows to avoid the reflection of the projector's beam on the operator's hand. The photo on the left shows an image of the demonstration before the unit is moved, and the photo on the right an image after the unit is moved. The hand has approximately the same orientation on both images. On these close-ups we can see that the ring that the operator wears is brighter on the first image, that is before the unit is moved, than on the second one, that is after the unit is moved, despite the fact that there is a finger over the ring which shade it. On the first image we can't see the relief of the ring, whereas we can on the second one. There are other elements of evidence that the display we see is projected from a projector. By examining the sampled images one by one, we can notice a variation of the display between two sampled images. This is not very visible on this global animation, but it is much more visible on this animation made with two windows of the display of exactly the same size and the same top left position taken on the two consecutive sampled images. You can clearly see that the 35 floats not only in position, but also in size, on the display. Notice the variation of the top of the digits relatively to the window which is above. This could not happen with an electroluminescent display on which the segments always keep the same size, and it undeniably proves that the display is projected. In the middle of the light, test the digits of the verb and the noun. The two pairs of digits over the three data lines suddenly go dimmer to go bright again, while the luminosity of the other digits does not change. This also cannot happen on an electroluminescent display on which the segments of the digits can be on or off, but not half on. This also undeniably proves that the display is projected. You may say okay, but the operator has to press on the keys at the good moment, because if he was not synchronized with what is displayed, it would show. Yes, but the operator knew in advance what he had to type. The scenario was prepared in advance. There could be a slight shift between what the operator types and the display, but this problem was solved like it is explained here on this slowed down animation. The operator has to type a 6 in the sequence. He is a little in advance over the projected display, so he puts his finger before the 6 and waits for the 6 to appear on the display. As soon as the projected 6 appears, he finishes pressing the key. It just takes some fractions of seconds, so the viewer notices nothing and thinks that it is the fact that the operator pressed the 6 which made the 6 appear. Well, it simply was in the projected sequence. In order to well catch what the operator does at the moment that the 6 appears on the display, the video has been sampled faster than usual. That is 20 images per second instead of 10 images per second. This stereoscopic view shows two consecutive images of the sampled sequence. On the first one, left, the 6 has already appeared on the display. The operator immediately reacts by actually pressing the 6 key. But even if he is very fast, there is still a little lag in his reaction, and that is why we see him press the 6 key in the next image, right? It is not very visible in the stereoscopic view which has been shown, but it is much more visible on this animation alternating the image on which the 6 appears on the display, labeled before in green, with the image on which the operator presses the key, labeled after in red. If it really was the AGC displaying the 6, it could not appear on the display before the operator has pressed the key. On this image extracted from the sequence, the operator uses a special technique to improve the synchronization between what he types and the display. Instead of using just one finger like he normally should, he uses two crossed fingers. He starts typing with the finger which is under. If the display changes, he then removes his hand, like what we see on the image, so that we can see the finger he used to type the key. But if he is a little early on the display, he then uses his second finger, the one above, and makes believe he used that one to press the key. In fact, it explains why the DSKY had this type of display. It was effectively not a liquid crystal display, it was a display which had good reflective properties to display an image projected from a projector so that the DSKY unit did not have to be a living unit, and anything displayed on it could be simulated by projecting an image on it. Now the fakes gave several clues that this sequence is staged. 1. There is the temp indicator which goes on, like on the photo, after the AGC has run for hardly more than an hour and a half since the first timer line displays 152, which represents 1.52 hours, so in fact 1 hour and 31 minutes, leaving serious doubts on the viability of the IMU. 2. There is also the key roll indicator which briefly goes on and off when the operator presses the 3 key instead of the key roll key, which is just on the right of the 3 key, which is related to this indicator. Notice that this indicator looks like a hand with the forefinger stretched up. 3. And there is even a new clue which is not even on the photo. At a moment they make display the timers with the verb 16 and the noun 65, like explained before. The upper data line, the hundredths of hours, displays 00152, and the lower data line, hundredths of seconds module 100,000, displays 45723. 152 hundredths of hours corresponds to 152 multiplied by 3600 equals 547,200 hundredths of seconds. That means that the lower data line should display at least 47,200. Between 47,200 and 47,200 plus 3,599 equals 50,799. And it displays only 45,723, so less than the minimal value it should display. And don't invoke a problem of refresh time of this display, for the difference corresponds to almost 15 seconds. So this time, unlike in the photo, there is no correspondence between the two data lines of the timer, and we have a fakery clue we did not have in the photo. And since we made a comparison between the two displays, look at the impressive difference of contrast between the two displays. The contrast is way worse on the animated sequence than on the photo. It is absolutely obvious that it is not produced the same way on the photo as on the animated sequence. On the photo the display is not projected, it's very probably hard pasted on the screen, maybe with some kind of fluorescent tape or a special pen. Sorry Apollo fans, but Apollo is still a fairy tale.